At some point today, you will put something in your mouth without thinking about it. A handful of something, a sip of something. You will not hesitate. You will not wonder if it will kill you. But there was a version of you, not metaphorically, literally a version of you, built from the same nervous system, the same gut, the same brain architecture, who had to answer that question every single day. And getting it wrong meant dying before you passed anything on. There were no labels, no doctors, no one who had written anything down, just a body, a forest full of things that could either feed you or end you, and a set of tools you were born with that you never had to think about. The question is what those tools actually were. And the answer is stranger and more sophisticated than almost anyone realizes. For the first 290,000 years of human existence, there was no agriculture, no controlled food supply, no domesticated crops. Every meal came from whatever the landscape offered that day. Plants, roots, fruit, meat, insects, fungi, bark, seeds. The variety was enormous. So was the danger. Roughly 700 species of plant in any given temperate environment contain compounds that are actively toxic to humans. Alkaloids that attack the nervous system, glycosides that disrupt the heart, oxalates that destroy kidney tissue, tannins that in high enough doses cause organ failure. The forest was not a grocery store with a few bad products. It was an environment where a meaningful percentage of what looked edible could kill you, and where almost nothing came with any indication of which was which. And yet, humans figured it out, not once, everywhere, across every continent, across every biome, across hundreds of thousands of years. How? The first tool was disgust, not disgust as an emotion, disgust as a biological detection system that evolution spent millions of years engineering specifically for this problem. In 1997, psychologist Paul Rozin at the University of Pennsylvania published research arguing that disgust is the only human emotion whose primary function is to act as a poison detection and avoidance system. Every other emotion, fear, anger, sadness, has multiple evolutionary purposes. Disgust has one. Keep things that might contaminate the body out of the body. The sensation itself is unmistakable. The curled lip, the narrowed nostrils, the gag reflex sitting right at the back of the throat. Those are not random. The narrowed nostrils reduce the amount of potentially contaminated air reaching the respiratory system. The gag reflex is the body's last mechanical barrier before something dangerous reaches the stomach. The curled lip is a sneer that evolved as a display signal to other members of the group. It says, "Do not eat this," without words, across any language, before language existed at all. But disgust is a blunt instrument. It catches the obvious threats: rotting meat, things that smell of decay, textures that signal decomposition. It was never going to be precise enough to sort 700 toxic plant species from the ones that were safe. The body needed something more specific, and it had it. Taste is a chemical analysis system that runs continuously every time anything enters your mouth. Sweetness detects the presence of simple carbohydrates, fast energy, the signal that a fruit is ripe and safe. Saltiness detects electrolytes, the minerals the body depletes through sweat and exertion and needs to replace. Umami detects glutamates, the signal of protein-dense food, the thing a hunter-gatherer body needed most desperately after a long day of moving. These three tastes are draws. They pull you toward things the body needs. Bitterness works in the opposite direction. Humans can detect bitter compounds at concentrations far lower than any other taste, far lower than what would actually be dangerous. Evolutionary biologists believe this is deliberate. The threshold was set low enough to catch trace amounts of toxins before the body absorbed enough to cause harm. A bitter taste was not a flavor preference. It was an alarm. The human body is running a continuous spectrographic analysis of everything that enters the mouth, calibrated over millions of years specifically to the chemical signatures of things that kill. But even this was not enough, because some of the most dangerous compounds in the natural world have no taste at all, no smell, no texture that signals danger. They are invisible to every sensory system the body has. And this is where the most remarkable tool comes in: social learning, the accumulation of collective knowledge across generations. A single human lifetime is not long enough to safely test the edible potential of an entire landscape. A single human brain cannot hold enough trial and error data to reliably navigate a complex ecosystem, but a group can. And a group across generations can do something no individual ever could. It can remember. Anthropologist Kim Sterelny has argued that this is one of the most underappreciated features of early human cognition: the ability to watch someone else eat something and update your own behavior based on their outcome. If a group member ate a particular root and died, no one else in the group ate that root. If a group member ate a particular berry and was fine, others watched, waited, and eventually tried it themselves. This is not simple imitation. It requires theory of mind, the ability to model another person's internal state, to understand that what happened to them could happen to you. It is one of the cognitive abilities that most clearly separates humans from every other species, and one of the places it may have been most critically useful is standing around a fire, deciding whether the thing someone just brought back from the forest was worth putting in your mouth. The knowledge that accumulated this way was not written down. It was encoded in behavior, in ritual, in the habits of who prepared food and how, in stories told around fires, in the specifics of which plants women dug up and which ones they walked past without stopping. It was passed from grandmothers to grandchildren with a precision that no individual could have generated alone. In traditional communities studied today, Ethnobotanical knowledge of which plants are edible, which are medicinal, and which are poisonous runs to hundreds of species, maintained entirely in oral tradition, accurate across generations with remarkable reliability. But here is what almost nobody talks about. The body had one more mechanism, one that operated below conscious awareness entirely. One trial taste aversion. In 1955, psychologist John Garcia discovered something that didn't fit any learning theory that existed at the time. If an animal ate something and became sick afterward, even if the sickness was delayed by hours, even if the animal had no way to consciously connect the illness to the food, it would refuse to eat that food again. Garcia found that this form of learning violated every rule of conditioning that had been established. Normal learning requires repetition, immediate feedback, and conscious association. Taste aversion learning required none of these. It worked on a single trial. It worked across a gap of hours, and it was essentially impossible to extinguish. The brain, specifically the insular cortex and the amygdala, had been wired to treat food-related illness as a category of experience so dangerous that one instance was enough to rewrite behavior for life. This was not a flaw. It was the most efficient possible survival mechanism for navigating a world full of things that could make you sick exactly once before killing you. You have this system right now in your brain. It is the reason that if you ate something that made you violently ill 20 years ago, you still feel a flicker of aversion when you smell it. The rational part of your brain knows the food didn't cause the illness. The insular cortex does not care. It recorded the association once, and it has kept it ever since. And here is the part that should unsettle you. This entire system, the disgust reflex, the taste detection network, the social learning architecture, the one trial aversion mechanism, was calibrated for a world that no longer exists. It was built for an environment where sweetness reliably meant ripe fruit, and bitterness reliably meant toxins, and the foods available were the ones a human body had co-evolved with for hundreds of thousands of years. It was not built for a world where sweetness is artificially concentrated into things that contain no nutrition at all, where bitterness is bred out of vegetables that the body actually needs, where the most chemically engineered foods on the planet are specifically designed by teams of scientists to defeat every detection system the body has and make you want more before you have even swallowed. The system that kept every one of your ancestors alive long enough to pass their genes forward is still running. It is still scanning every bite you take. It is still firing its ancient signals. It is just doing it in an environment it was never designed to navigate. And the results are visible everywhere. Obesity, disordered eating, the inability to stop eating something that your body is simultaneously registering as not quite right. The ancient poison detector, the most sophisticated food safety system evolution ever produced, encountering for the first time in its existence an adversary that was specifically engineered to fool it. Your ancestors stood in a forest and used their bodies to decide what was safe. They were right often enough that you exist, but the thing sitting on your kitchen counter right now, it was designed by people who understand your detection system better than you do, and they were not designing it to keep you safe.